Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. We're going to talk today about the Daytona 500. So, I've watched the Daytona 500 plenty of times throughout my life. I remember watching it with my dad as a kid. I don't know if it was the Daytona or it actually could have been, now that I think about it, could have been the Indianapolis 500, which is different kind of cars. But what I was going to say is some of the terms I remember learning as a kid from my dad. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Having said that, I'm definitely not an expert on NASCAR or Daytona 500. But I've spent the last, all morning really, researching it and trying to understand the whole thing better. And I learned a lot, I'll be honest, that I didn't know. So I'm excited to share it with you. And hopefully if you're not a person who generally watches this kind of, race car event, you might learn a little something and, just increase your knowledge. If you're already a guy or girl who watches NASCAR, you're probably not going to learn too much from this video, but maybe you'll enjoy it just for distraction. Okay, so let's get into it. So the Daytona 500, let me grab my, and P.S. This is an ASMR style video. It's not super ASMR-y, but it's kind of for distraction. Like, my hope is to kind of slow down if your mind sort of gets too busy on you, and to learn a little something. But I don't try to go overly quickly and go through basic things sometimes. So just so you know, if you're like, why is this taking so long to get to the point? But I don't take too long. Okay, so Daytona 500 is a NASCAR. It's called a NASCAR Cup Series race. And NASCAR, they race a lot of races all season. But the Daytona 500, I'm assuming it always is, but at least this year it's the first of the NASCAR Cup Series races. Oh, and by the way, NASCAR, that stands for, oh boy, I hope I spelled this right, National Spelling is not my my strong suit. For stock car auto racing. NASCAR. National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing. Pretty cool, right? So that's what NASCAR stands for. And the Daytona, actually here, let me pull out I have a map here, hold on. In case you're not from the US, and I know some of my listeners are not. This is the map of the United States. And where NASCAR is, where Daytona Beach, where the Daytona 500 is raced, is in Daytona Beach, which is right here in Florida. Originally, it was run actually on the sand of Daytona Beach, as I understand it. And it wasn't until 1959 they built the Daytona 500 race course. And it's called the Daytona National Speedway. And that is when the Daytona 500 started. So, yeah, actually. So the actual course is called the Daytona. I went from caps to lowercase. That's okay. Daytona National Speedway, and it's in Daytona Beach. The other like big NASCAR race courses are the Talladega Super Speedway, which it is like right here-ish in Alabama. And then there's one in Atlanta called the Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is like here. So, and here's where Daytona is. So you can see by the US map here, this is why NASCAR racing is very popular in these southern states, because that's just where a lot of it happens. And there are a lot of people, well, there are people all over the country who love NASCAR, but there are also a lot of people who don't know anything about it. But I think since the, like when I lived in Arizona in 1990s, that's when it started to become really popular, I feel like. Like, you wouldn't hear about it all, and then all of a sudden we started having Daytona 500 parties, and it just seems like it became a lot more popular during that time period, and I think it's just grown in popularity since then. So anyway, that's just a little, so you have a mental image of where we're talking about. Okay. So the Daytona National Speedway is called the Daytona, the race is called the Daytona 500 because the cars drive 500 laps around the speedway. You probably figured that one out. That's not right. Hold on. You could hear me get quiet and go, that doesn't seem correct. Apologies. That's not right. Hold on. Let me rethink this. No. No. Okay, where's my Sharpie? The Daytona National Speedway. Okay, it's called... Sometimes I go, should I restart? And then I say, nah. You guys, it's 500 miles. But they drive 200 laps. Because each lap, and this is where I started going, wait, that is 2.5 miles. Does that add up right? 400. Yeah, 500 miles. Okay. Whew. All right. So the Daytona 500 is called that because it's a 500-mile race. They take 200 laps, and each lap is 2.5 miles. And I was looking at the, the way the race course, it's kind of, it's like, how do I draw it? I'm not an artist. It's oval. And then it kind of goes forward. Okay, that's not my best art, but so there's like, this is really not great. Picture a really oval, like an egg, but it kind of comes out here, and this is where the finish line is. And then the turn, let me redo this. I can't even. I can't. I should have pre-drawn this because I can't draw an oval. Okay, hold on. Let me try again. It's like and then there's a straightaway, and then it goes around, but then it kind of comes a little bit forward. I think that's a little bit better. It's still not great, but it's better. So this is turn 1, and this is turn 2, and this is turn 3, and this is turn 4, and this is called the back stretch. Which we should all do right now. Oh, big back stretch. Take a breath. Breathe it out. Okay. And then this is the front stretch, I think it's called. And this is where the flag, I believe the flag man is here. And we'll talk about him in just a second. And this is the finish line. In the starting line. So the cars go. Okay. So there we go. All right. Now, when I was looking this up, they were talking about, it's funny when you don't know anything. Sometimes there are certain words that will make you go, what? And so they said the starting grid, and I'm like, boy, I got to start at place A because I don't really know what a starting grid exactly means. And it's funny when you look it up, it's kind of hard to find because they just assume everybody knows that. By the way, I pulled out some toy cars, and this one is Salute to Petty, the King. 7 championships. This is the car of Richard Petty, number 43, and he won the most Daytona 500s of all time. And I think he raced from like the late 60s until the 80s. Hold on. Oh my gosh, this is heavy. I have this. So let's see here. Let me try to get it open. Let's see what cars we can use for my example. I think that's the only NASCAR. Like I have some. I'm blanking Grand Prix. No, I'm blanking the words for those. Whatever. We're talking NASCAR. That's more like, what is that? Like a derby car? I don't know. Speed racer, maybe. I don't know. Let's just try to find some that are the same size. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. We need a, look at this one. Is it open? Yes, it does. All right, these are not what the cars look like in NASCAR, just FYI. Okay, that'll be good enough, I think. Oops. If you ever want me to go through these cars, let me know. Okay, put that over there. So the grid, apparently, oops. He's too long. He doesn't fit. Maybe this one. Okay. Is when the cars line up before the race. And from what I read, they have 21 rows of 2 cars. And they line up like this. And the fastest qualifiers are given the inside of the first row. So he's the fastest qualifier. I should have looked it up. I don't know if like second qualifier, would he prefer to be here or here? Like, is it better to be on the inside or shorter, or to be up front? I don't know. But anyway, So the fastest qualifiers are going to be here and up here. But that's what the grid is when they line up all 2 by 2. And it seemed, from what I read, I think it's 2 cars, 21 rows. So then there is a car that usually is the same style of car as the other NASCARs. But in this instance, it's this. This is what British cars look like when they race. Just kidding. This is definitely made in England, 1975. But anyway, okay. I feel like this was in the cartoons on Saturday mornings or something, but I don't know. So there is a car called a pace car. And so when they first, when they do laps to kind of warm up, he will drive, or she will drive in front of the cars to keep them at a certain speed and drive around and warm up, and then drives off and they take off. And then if there's ever a caution, like if there's an accident or something gets on the track or weather, the pace car will come back out, and everybody, I believe, it has to kind of stay in the order they were in when the caution went out, and the pace car keeps them going around and just helps maintain their speed and everything, I believe. So that is the pace car, and you'll see that if you watch the race. Okay, how do we begin this? Let's start. Okay. It's always tricky when you want to explain something from the basics, like where do you begin, Well, I told you that at the front stretch here, there's a flagman. Why am I having trouble saying that? And I think he stands kind of up above the track. I should have looked that up a little more carefully, but I think that's right. And when the race starts, if everything's good to go, hold on, let me get then he holds up a green flag. And as we all know, green means go. So if that flag is flying, the cars hit the gas, take off, they're ready to go. That's the green flag. Now, sometimes, and this might happen mid-race, probably not at the beginning of the race, but if there's an accident somewhere on the course, or I don't know, somebody throws something onto the course, or a bird dies all of a sudden and falls on the course. Oh, that was dark. Gosh. Then they might throw up a yellow flag, and that's going to be hard to see, so I outlined it with black. But that means caution, kind of like a yellow light. So if they see that, they have to line up behind the pace car and start going, slower. They have to slow down. So that's the yellow. And then let's see here if I have the right crayon. There we go. You can imagine what this one means. If they throw up a red flag, that means that they have to stop they don't just stop on the course. They have designated areas where they go to stop. And sometimes you might get a red if there's bad weather. I think like lightning, that kind of weather could stop a race. Okay, and then if you're going under the flagman and they throw a black flag at you. Now, I'm not exactly sure. Are there people around the race course who are how would you know they're meaning it for you? That's the only thing I'm not sure with the black flag. Because what it said is a black flag means a driver must get off to their pit. And that is showing that they, they did something wrong, or their car has some issue that I don't know if they call them referees in this sport, but anyway, I'll call them referees, have decided makes your car unsafe. But how does the driver know that's aimed at them? You know what I mean? Anyway, but that's what a black flag is, from what I could understand. And then this one. Some of these I don't, these are all directed at the drivers, and how do they know it's for them? Like they said, there's a flag that can come out that's a blue flag. And if the driver sees that, I think what it means is, like, this guy has been lapped by Petty because he's awesome. And he is given the blue flag, which basically means you don't have a chance. So you need to kind of get out of the way so Petty can get past you. I think that's right, from what I understood. And I know this from racing in a track, that if you're getting lapped, you're kind of to get out of the way and let the fast person go in front of you. So I think that's, if you see a blue flag, that's what that one means. If the white flag comes out, that means the lead driver has now entered his last lap of the race. I think that's right. Yeah. That's a white flag. Oh, we're going to need another piece of paper we've hid into. Okay. And then if this flag, I don't know how I'm going to draw this. Oh, I'm using my dry erase. Hold on. I don't want to waste that one. I'll try to get through this as quick as I can. Hold on. Perfection is not the goal. Just understanding, right? We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Okay, why am I missing that one? All right, here it is. This is the checkered flag. And if that flag comes out, that means a driver, we're going to say it's Tom Petty in this case, has crossed the finish line. Yeah. So all the other drivers know somebody's finished the race. And that's what the checkered flag means. There was one other flag that I heard about. I'm not going to try to draw it. Well, I don't think I have to draw it now that I think about it, because I remember it was more complicated. So I think what happens is, let me think for just 1 second. Okay, I think what they do is they throw out a white, I don't know if they have a special green checkered flag, or if it's like a white flag and then the checkered flag. Why wouldn't they throw a caution? Anyway, it's if you're in the final, I didn't explain that. We'll have to go back. But you're in one of the final laps, and there's sort of a warning, maybe a weather warning, like a light rain that has put a caution on the field. But I'm kind of confused. It's so that you don't end a race. You don't have... Okay, so they throw out the flags and say, hey, there's a caution on the race, but this guy's on his last lap. And they don't want the race to end during a caution, because during a caution, they can't be passing each other and doing that kind of stuff. So what they do is, basically, my understanding is during that caution, it's kind of like they're throwing these flags and saying the race sort of stops. And as soon as the caution ends, then we throw another green flag and it's like starts up again at that point. I think I'm understanding that correctly. And that is to keep the end of the race from ending in a caution flag. It's something like that. You guys can Google that. Well, somebody in the comments could explain that more clearly than I just did. But you just don't want the race to end in a caution, I think. And that's a pretty new rule, I believe. All right, let me move these cars out of here for a second. Okay. So what we didn't talk about, and this part's I didn't know about at all. It was totally new to me, which is interesting. Because I always thought, where's my cloth? Hold on. I don't know what I do with that. Hold on. I think I'm going to erase this. Well, actually, I'll just write it on a piece of paper. I always thought, like, the cars race and whoever wins, wins. Wrong. So there are stages to a race. There's stage 1, stage, you guessed it, 2, and I didn't really want to start with that. Okay, we're just going to say stage 1 and stage 2, because last one's kind of called something else. And then there's the final stage. Okay, so stage 1 is lap 1 through 65. I think that, yeah. And then stage 2 is lap 66 through 130. And then the final stage is lap 131 through the final lap 200. Now this was new to me, you guys. That's how much. So they have these, you race from lap 1 to 65, and then there's a caution period where the, pace car comes out and slows everybody down. So there's a caution period between the stages. And then they go to stage 66 through 130, caution period, and then the final. But what's interesting to me that I didn't know is that during each of these stages, there is a top 10 car. So like during stage 1, the top 10 in each stage gets a point. So during stage 1, the top 10 each car gets a point. During stage 2, each car gets a point. So there's a point system going on here. And I don't want to use that. Hold on, let me get a different. And the cars that win the winning, the cars that win the first 2 stages gets an extra. So like the number 1 car after the first 2 stages gets an extra 10 points. The number 2 car gets an extra 9. The number 3 car gets an extra 8 points, and going down from there. So not only, let's say you arrived first at the first stage and first at the second stage. You got an extra point for that. You got for winning stage 1. You got an extra point for winning stage 2. And then you got an extra 10 points for winning. This is for winning. Stage 1 and 2. So if you're the leader after the first two, then you get these extra 10 points, 9 points, 8 points. So now you've gotten 10, 11, 12 extra points because you won all those. And then that leads you into the final stage. So does that make sense? All right, so now if you win the final stage, that gives you 40 race points. So that's a big deal. I mean, it's if you win that, it's hard for any other car. They couldn't have gotten enough points to still beat you, right? Well, but except that, okay, so number 1 at the end gets 40. Number 2 at the end gets 35. So it's a bit of a jump down. Number 3 gets 34. Number 4 gets 33, and on so on. So let's think about this. If you won this stage and this stage, you could have 10, 11, 12 plus the 35. So then you'd have 47. And this guy would have 40. But you'd assume he came in. So you could. So are you telling me, people of the world, tell me, am I correct in thinking that you could win stage 1, stage 2, and come in second and win the Daytona 500 even though you didn't place first in the race? What? Is that right? I thought I understood it, but now I'm questioning myself. But I think that could be the case. I don't know if that's ever happened. I'm gonna have to do a little more research after this. Anyway, and from my understanding, the reason for that is because if, like, you make it through stage 1 and stage 2, now you've gone 130 miles. You're racing through the final stage, and all of a sudden a thunderstorm starts, or it snows in Daytona Beach. I don't know. There's some kind of weather, something. And that ends the race before the stage is out. The winner of stage 2 would win the race. So I think that's why they've added, and I think this point system is fairly newish, I think. Okay. Guys, I hope I got that right. I think I did. I think that's right. Okay. Now let's talk about, let's give up on this point thing. But I think generally whoever wins the race getting that 40 points, they've probably been in one of the lead cars throughout, unless there was a giant accident that took out a ton of cars that got them into the lead. But otherwise, they're probably going to win the race, right? I don't know. I wish I'd looked up now. See, I don't Google anything on here, so I can't tell you. But I now wish I'd looked up, like, has anyone ever finished first but didn't win on points? Okay, I don't know. Or maybe if you finish first, you're the winner. You just don't have as many points. Do these points carry on to future races? Is that the story? Sorry, guys, I should have researched that a little more. Okay, well, okay. I don't know. But let's talk about a couple of terms. I was saying that my dad, when I was a kid, he used to always, like, when we'd drive on the highway, like, oh, I should get closer to that car so I can draft and save gas, because this was during the 70s and there was a gas crisis going on. So we'd joke about drafting, but that is a real thing. And these cars, they're driving about 200 miles per hour. And from what I read, they used to go even faster than that. But I think due to safety and everything. But these things are like cages, fireproof cages. So they're really pretty safe. That's not to say it's not a dangerous sport. It is. But they're as safe as, like, a car like this can be. But here's the crazy thing. They're going 200 miles an hour, and they will what's called drafting each other, or draft, which means they get basically as close as they can. And the airflow will go over this car. This is my understanding. I should have looked this up more too. And it blocks it from this car. So he, one, doesn't get that airflow, and also like gets vacuumed, kind of sucked into this one, which helps with his speed and using less fuel. And that's why they draft them. There's also something called bumping, and they will sometimes go and kind of bump the other guys. And that will make this car possibly just lose a tiny bit of control. And they may have to let off the gas a little bit to get the control back, which gives this guy an opportunity to pass. So I think that's called a bump and run. Now, I did read somewhere that they can, I assume this is if you're on the same team, because they do sort of have teammates, like they're under the same, what's the word? I don't know if it's a sponsor or the people who make and work on their car. Maybe I'll have to do a different video on that. And so they can bump them like that, and it'll speed this guy up. And apparently that guy, I don't know about that. Anyway, all right. I can't really think of anything else. They do stop at their pit crews, and they can within a few minutes change out their tires, because they will run through tires sometimes, and gas them up and all that. And so that's, they're driving 500 miles. So, but that might have to be a separate video, because I didn't do a real deep dive on pit crews. I'm trying to think if there's anything I did say about Richard Petty, right? Yeah. He was as far as I know, he's won more Daytona 500s than any other driver. Although, I don't know if there's a new driver who's won a bunch. I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't think of anything else, guys. So, I hope in the comments, first of all, be gentle. I know I'm not an expert. But, if you have any thoughts, anything you want to share, I don't know, anything. I always love to hear from you guys. So we have stage 1, stage 2, and the final stage. I think that's what's called the final stage. Yeah, and then all these points. I mean, this was brand new to me. I just didn't know about it. Yeah, and I don't know, I said that wrong. Daytona 500 is 500 because it's 500 miles, and it's in Daytona Beach. And each lap is 2.5 miles. So they go 200 laps. And the main flags you're looking for are the green go, the ones you'll see the most, the yellow caution, and then the final lap, white, and then the checkered flag is for somebody finished the race. So I can't think of anything else. Oh, I do know one other thing. Hold on, I wrote it down here. The name of the trophy that you win is the Harley J. Earl Trophy. And I did a video on the big 3 automakers. And I mentioned that I did Chrysler, Ford, and GM. And in that video, I mentioned that General Motors was kind of the one I'm least knowledgeable about, I would say, of those 3. And Harley J. Earl was a designer of cars. And he ended up being I think the vice president of General Motors, which was kind of unusual for a designer. but he designed the original Corvette. So that was his claim to fame, and I guess why he was into fast cars. But anyway, so the trophy, the Harley J. Earl Trophy, is the trophy you'd win if you win the Daytona 500. I thought that was kind of interesting. Let me cut these beautiful flags I made. Yeah, so let me know. I did a video like this on football, and I did one on baseball. But I'll be honest, those sports I knew a little bit more about than racing. I have been to the Detroit Grand Prix a couple times because I'm from Detroit originally, but never the Daytona 500, although I know somebody who went and they had a good time, but they said it was just so loud. You gotta get your earplugs if you're going to something like that. Get some of those good earplugs I showed you guys in that one video. You can still hear everything. It just takes out the sounds that will actually damage your hearing. Because I can tell you, ringing in the ears, which comes with damaged hearing, is a nightmare. I've been having it lately. I don't know why. Okay. Let's see how many things we have here. Well, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll just sort through these a little bit, but I'll talk to you soon.